ReasonConf is brought to you by our gold sponsors Ahrefs and Chain Street.
Open source. So a little bit about me is that how come I got into Reason? I'm a .NET guy, I'm into TypeScript and this kind of technologies, but the most important part, I guess, is that I have immense interest in some other technologies like Reason, Camel, F#, Kotlin, and this kind of stuff. But still, it's for me it's really hard to learn the new technologies. So why so? Because how do you learn another language? So maybe you go to work actually that uses this technology, and maybe some technologies that you actually know about, and that's how you got into this. Or maybe you I don't know, go to some courses. Or maybe the most obvious way, you just read some articles, go to some Egghead courses or exorcism or whatnot. But it's hard actually to keep momentum, to keep the motivation for you to continue learning this technology. And one of the ways of learning actually something is through an open source. So how does I usually say is how to get into open source? You use some projects, for example, I don't know, Material UI or something like this. And so you may want to just help them through, improving the documentation, or maybe you have some idea to implement that. It's not actually possible with new technology because you haven't actually used it. So you don't have the libraries or a project you use and you can help with. So, and still, it's hard to, as I say, it's hard to keep momentum because, behold, my mighty, okay, where is this? Yeah, now I get it. My mighty exorcism page. So it has almost nothing. It's cross-platform UI. And I have a passion about two things. One is this fast and usable UI, and the desktop tend to be more usable and fast than web. And the second one is the software that looks nice. Like the VS Code, for example. It still has some problems with the performance sometimes, but it looks nice. And this project actually combines these two things. So it doesn't look nice right now, because it's in a very early stage. But I actually do care about this stuff. So that's how I actually started to learn Reason and the Camel and this kind of stuff, because I've seen that this project is something that I care for. Still, it's kind of amazing what this project actually does, because when I first read about it, it just said it doesn't use native widgets. And at this point of time, it doesn't make any sense to me because I didn't know what actually native widgets are. But in fact, then I realized that it does mean that everything is native. So for example, this button, it's not the button from Cocoa or Win32 API, it's a button like the rectangle you actually drawing via OpenGL. And to actually say that you click the button, you handle the click and check if the coordinate is inside the bounds of a button. And one first PR that I sent to the Reverie was that if you will start button left button click outside the button, then move into the button and release it, it will be considered as a click. So you need to, first of all, when you start pressing on the button, then you fire up the handle, and then you check when you actually released it. If it's still on the button, okay, we clicked it. If it's not, then it's not. And at first, I was really, how to say, frightened about it, because it's not that what I used to do, throw some buttons, okay, on click, and then we call some API and this kind of stuff. But when I tried to do it, it turned out that it's actually almost the same code. It still has a different domain, and by no means it was easy for me, but it was doable. It was actually feasible. And then I started to do some other things. For example, I implemented like a text wrap. So it looks like this. And even if you change some things like this, it still works. For me, the algorithm was kind of obvious. Still, it took me about, I don't know, like 3 to 4 days to actually implement and test and do this kind of thing. But as I said, it still was doable. It still was feasible. So, and the passion about this project was the same to actually keep me working on this even right now. Even if I'm not working on this like on the daily basis or even on the weekly basis, it's still something that keeps me up with this. So it's not, I don't think it's like for everyone. I just wanted to share my story about it. Because like the learning process is like very individual thing. So you have to try a lot of things and you will find out eventually what is working for you and what is not. So I wanted to actually like just share my story, so you maybe want to use this kind of a way to get into the ecosystem. So you'll find a project you care about, and it will give you some motivation to do the learning, to actually learn this technology. Okay, that's all. Thank you.